Hi, Miss Gardner. I want to apologize for the extras that I might have in my presentation. My little granddaughter's here. Her mom is taping me, and my puppies will probably be on my lap. I seem to be fair game when I sit down. I'm sorry about that if it happens. Well, here goes, and please note that I'm not very good at this. My thesis for Mrs. Gardner's seminar in psychology class is titled Invisible Men in Our Society, the Battered Man. When thinking of domestic violence in our society, people have the mindset that women are the victims and men are the abusers. Men do not report being abused because of shame, embarrassment, or the pride. The truth is, every 37.8 seconds a man is abused. That is 830,000 men every year. According to the National Violence Against Women Survey, there are 1.5 million victims that are women. If male abuse is underreported, could this mean male abuse is equal to, or even higher in numbers than female abuse? It is time to break the silence and create awareness so these men can get the help that they need. What is domestic violence? It's an abuser that wants power and control. To do this in an intimate partner relationship, there are many forms of abuse. Emotional or psychological abuse involves verbal abuse, being overly possessive, destruction of property, being isolated from family or friends, and a whole lot more. The abuse may put limitations of where the victim can go, what they can wear, and even what kind of job they are allowed to do, if they are allowed to work at all. Mind games are played, and suggestions to the victim such as they are crazy or mentally imbalanced are often a part of it. Accusations of adultery are sometimes used. The victim may lose a sense of what is normal, or they may lose their sense of identity. Often these kinds of psychological or emotional abuse will lead to physical abuse. Physical abuse may start out mildly, such as pushing or slapping, but often escalates to more aggressive behavior. Attacks may become more frequent and more severe. It may lead to strangulation, broken bones, the use of weapons, and possibly even murder. Psychological abuse also often leads to sexual assault or rape. This abuse also includes emotional and psychological abuse. Another abuse includes economical or financial abuse. The victim is deprived financial resources when they are economically or financially abused. The abuser takes control of all finances, keeps money away from the victim, or allows them only a small allowance. However, the abusive partner can spend any amount they want, even if it is for fun or foolishness. The victim of this abuse does not have this privilege. The least reported and most understood abuse is sexual victimization. This abuse is also accompanied by physical and psychological abuse. Some women, as well as men, do not report the abuse. Why isn't abuse reported? Their excuses may include because of the children. There's no way to support themselves. They are too afraid, or they are too humiliated. Men, even when innocent, are too embarrassed. Court systems lean towards the women. Media portrays the women as the victim, and there are no support systems for the battered man. Men have a hard time getting people to believe them. Age, finances, and the inability to be providers are some of the characteristics of the battered man. Blue-collar or low white-collar workers are at risk for abuse. Other than sexual assaults, men are at a higher risk for more violent crimes than women. Weapons are often included, and their assaults end in injury and possibly even death. Abuse can include anyone in any step of life, rich or poor, young or old. But what makes the female women aggressive? Fear may be a contributor, but mostly the female aggressor is bullying and trying to control their intimate partner. Poor self-control is a factor. Females that have histories of traumatic experiences, mental illnesses, drug or alcohol dependency, or suicidal thoughts may become aggressive to their intimate partner. Jealousy, confusion, anger, feelings of revenge, or being emotionally hurt can all be considered as possible factors for female aggression. Yelling, scare tactics, threats, and blackmail may be some of the elements. False accusations of adultery or false threats that involve the children or tactics that were also used by the female abuser. Unfortunately, men are reluctant to report being abused by a female. They may be in denial, feeling stigmatized, or not wanting to be labeled as wimpy or as a loser. Our society, with their mindsets, do not offer the abused man help. The males who try to report are laughed at or turned away by the same intervention centers that help women. On top of that, they are ridiculed if they call a hotline. Society focus is on the battered woman. In 1996, surveys showed that 1 in 25 men and 1 in 25 women were abused. In 2003, in a study by Fitzgerald, these numbers changed. They found that 1 in 6 men were abused compared to 1 in 4 women. A woman is abused every 15 seconds, but for every 14 seconds, a woman is battering a partner. Battered men are invisible to our society, our law enforcement, our crisis centers, and our hotlines. Not only is a battered man in the position of dealing with an abusive partner that society doesn't recognize, he also has to face that same society if he goes and tries to get help. Messages on the Nebraska Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Coalition website does not mention men as victims, but implies that the abuser is male. It sounds like their mind is already made up, no matter what the circumstances. Society needs to stand together to demand training for law enforcement, anyone dealing with domestic violence, and be the voice for the battered man. When abuse happens, there are many indirect victims. Family, friends, children, and even pets can be affected. Youth that witness intimate partner abuse are at a high risk of exhibiting bullying behaviors and peer victimization. Unless something is done, the abuse lives on. Even when the relationship ends, it is hard for the victim to move on. Physical ailments, emotional and psychological scars are there, and trust issues prevail and are hard to conquer. Once a victim, the rest of their life is like living a life sentence without parole. In Lincoln, Nebraska alone, there are 1,800 reported cases of abuse a year. From September 2007 until now, there have been 10 domestic violence-related homicides. Something must be done to report these and to bring these numbers down. Even one case, male or female, is too many. Research needs to be done and changes made so our laws cover all areas of abuse for both genders. Education is essential and awareness is necessary in order for this to happen. With male abuse being the silent abuse, the ridiculed abuse, and the acknowledged abuse, the numbers are going to grow and affect the generation of children that are witnesses to it, creating the probability of more abuse later on. It is time for more research to be done, more laws to be enacted, and more community concern for any and all abuse. The reason I chose to research the battered man is because I was a battered woman. I lived through the physical abuse with my first husband. I went through the beatings, the weapons, the threats, his control, until it involved my baby daughter. That's when I had no choice but to fight back. I had to make sure my baby was safe. Without help from any intervention centers, I left, bruised, scarred, scared, and I survived. With my recent divorce from a narcissistic sociopath, which is a nice way to put it, which was his profile from a detective, but also my diagnosis, I went through the emotional, psychological, financial, economical, physical, and every other abuse there is. I was scared not to be under his control, afraid that I wouldn't answer him correctly, was not allowed to have keys to the house or to the car, and the car was mine. He would not let me see any mail, go anywhere alone, work, talk on the phone if he wasn't within hearing distance. He monitored my text messages and my email. He locked me in a house for 6 days. Locks were on the outside of the doors. He took my phone, put a new password on the computer so I couldn't use it, and left me in a wilderness miles from town with no neighbors. He had already isolated me from my family and friends, so I had no support, just like he wanted. The landlord actually had law enforcement searching for my dead body in the wilderness. At another time, he tried to shove me out of a moving truck because of our,
Uncle
because
Albert,
of what he called
I
my
can't
daughter.
sit down.
He decided to be spontaneous and moved to
Albert,
Arkansas
I
one
can't
day.
sit down.
At this point, he took my cash, he drained my bank accounts, and had my phone shut off. He left me homeless, with no car, no phone, broke, and he even took my clothes and my prescription glasses. I survived thanks to a cousin, but scars followed. I will never trust again. I will never marry again.
Over.
With my not so good track record on relationships,
Thank you.
I wanted to research to see if there really was a battered man. A man that actually went through some or all that I have gone through. I'm very dedicated to the Hope Crisis Center, as well as Blue Valley Community Action. If this is as severe a problem as it seems to be, I will do what I can to help the invisible man, the battered man, in any way possible. This thesis helped me to understand that it is definitely a problem, right along with the female abuse.
I can't sit down.
11:20.